Hi, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. Today we're going to look at the Bear Alaskan. This is a new bow for Bear and it's a mid-price bow. So we're going to talk about it and the stats, and I'm going to compare it to other bows on the marketplace. Now this bow has been a bit intriguing to me and I'll tell you about it. Let's talk about the specs for the bow. 32 inches axle, draw length from 25 to 31. IBO speed is about 330, 6.25 inch brace height. The draw length is adjustable through rotating modules. This is a hybrid cam, so you've got a yoke at the top and a normal cam at the bottom. So the top and the bottom cams are different. In fact, it looks like the top cam's bigger. I don't know if it is or isn't. Anyway, top and bottom's different. Cast riser, metal limb pockets. Now these limbs are the old Bear limbs. These are the molded fiberglass limbs. Now Bear tends to use the golden glass limbs for their top of the line bows, and they tend to use these for their cheaper limbs. Saying that, I haven't had any problems with these limbs ever, so whether these are better or golden glass limbs are better, that's up to you to decide. It comes with a nice little tag here showing all the specs and the poundage and stuff. Right, so my controversy when looking at a new bow is, where does it sit in the marketplace? So before doing this review, I looked up how much this sells for in Australia. It sells for basically about $1,100 down to $1,030. Okay, so I'm going to call it $1,000. And yes, the other guy's selling it for $1,100. But anyway, let's call it $1,000. Then I compared this bow in America at Lancaster Archery to other bows. So this bow compared to the PSE Drive. Lancaster sell, and I'm going to pull these numbers from the top of my head. Lancaster sell the PSE Drive for $750 US, or this bow for $500 US. So $250 US difference. Now the Drive in Australia sells for $950, so the Drive is selling for $100 cheaper than this in Australia. But when I convert American dollars to Australian dollars, it's 0.67, so you're basically almost double difference. So it's a $250 bow difference in America, so that should be about $500 difference. So this bow should be about $500 cheaper than the Drive. So anyway, so then that got me then looking in Europe and looking at other shops about the variance in bow prices in the mid-bow price range. And I sent PSE an email on this, and I'll probably get in trouble. Now, saying that, before, when I used to deal with PSA, when I used to go to the ATA shows, we'd walk around the ATA show with the PSE engineers and we'd compare like and like bows. So we'd say, well, this is a $1,000 bow, let's compare your $1,000 bow and see which one's got the best features. And that's what I try and do in my reviews, and try and give that vision to you as a viewer, so you can go, well, how does this bow compare? So when I compare this bow, I compare it to the Elite Terrain. The Elite Terrain has got basically the same brace height, basically the same axle. I think it's got the golden glass limbs. It's got the same cam system, same draw length, same speed. And I'm like, that's pretty much the same. I compare it to the Drive from PSE, similar brace height, similar speed, similar cam system. The PSE's got a twin cam system. I compare it to the Bowtech, like Amplify or Convergence. Look, those bows are going to sell for a similar price point. They're a twin cam. Maybe this one's a little bit better, but they're similar. So when it comes to a consumer, you've really got to say, well, how does this price compare and what's the price's difference? Now, what I said to PSE was, I'm not making any money on PSE bows anymore, zero, because there's this price war or whatever's going on, and I'm not sure if the dealer's a moron selling at cost. And that's no insult to him, and it sounds like an insult. Well, maybe it is an insult. Or whether he's trying to put me out of business, which is highly possible, or whether he's just trying to put PSE out of business, which is also highly possible. So either the guy's an idiot because he's selling all his bows at below cost, or he's trying to put PSE out of business, or he's trying to put me out of business. I don't know what the option is. I'm sure PSE won't take that very well at the moment. So anyway, That's the story with this bow. It's a mid-price bow, and where does it kind of rate? Now, Bear has lots of budget bows in their lineup, and they're all pretty good. So where does this one rate? How does it compare to the others? Because some of the other Bears are a little bit cheaper, and I'm kind of interested in, well, is this worth the extra money that this is over the other Bears in the price point? So if I compare it to Elite, the Terrain's a mid-price bow, their Basin's a little bit cheaper, which is a twin cam bow. The PSE drive should be more expensive, but it's cheaper. Saying that, it's sold at below cost. The Convergence is a nice bow from Bowtech, but I've got a feeling this bow may be better, but it is more expensive. So it's kind of priced at the right kind of price point. However, then I would raise questions about whether the cheaper Bears are better value than the Alaskan at between $1,100 and $1,000 for what it sells for. Now, I normally shoot with a chronograph, but I can't find my chronograph. I don't know where it is, so it's a hot day, so I thought, let's do this review and see how the bow is and see how it feels. Now, the cams have got roller bearings. Now, to tune this, you'd normally twist the yokes to get cam timing. You don't need a bow press to adjust the draw length. One stabilizer hole there, none, or one there, which goes right the way through. One stabilizer hole, two holes here for your RRS, which is good. So let's try the draw cycle. This is a 60 pound max, should be set on 29. Oh, so the start of it feels very smooth. I'm going to take a shot. So the draw cycle is very smooth. I can't really feel it drop into the valley, although there's a significant valley. It's like kind of peaks slowly and then drops slowly into the valley. It's kind of a small valley, but it's very easy draw cycle. So it's dead in the hand after the shot, a little bit of noise, not too bad. The grip is very comfortable. Some of the Bears are not that comfortable. This is quite comfortable. So peaking, hitting the valley now, valley there, and then you're back in. So there's a little bit of noise, but it feels really good. Very comfortable draw cycle. So with that, I think we'll go back to 18 meters and see how well I shoot with it. Okay, so I'm back at 18 meters. We're going to try the Alaskan and see how we go. Now I'm going to say I've got a basic 3-pin sight on here without micro adjustment. A pain to set the sights because I'm like bumping it. I bump it too much left and right. Micro adjustment would be a lot easier. It's the same sight I use on my reviews. I'm shooting a basic Whisker Biscuit, no peep sight, and a basic D-loop. Now, I was on a forum today and this guy was whacking his arm and he was asking, how he fixes this problem. Grip is everything. You need to hold the bow like so. It just kind of sits. So it's like halt, just relax your hands. So it's there, right? Hands are relaxed. And it just sits there. Not gripping, not like that. You do that, you're going to whack your arm, it's going to hurt. Now, if you hold the bow like this and you torque the bow a little bit like that, the strings are going to come off the cams. You're going to say, oh, the bow's faulty. You torque the bow, 10% torque. So you create 10% torque on the grip. The strings will pop off and the bow will explode. This is the most important thing with beginners like that. Like that. The bow is just sitting there in my hand. Okay? This is how I can tell if a person can shoot or not. If they can't shoot, they hold the bow like that. You want your hand to be this arm here, in line with the arrow. It can be slightly high but not low. Okay, in line, and you want it in the same angle as the arrow. So you want this arm in the same line as the arrow. Not like that, not way back, in the same line so it breaks. That's it. That's shooting. You can do that every time. You're going to be world champion. Alright, so how do I think I'll shoot with this bow? The draw cycle is very smooth, the bow's well balanced. I think I'll shoot it quite well. 6¼ inch brace height, I generally shoot better with bigger brace heights. Shorter brace heights, the arrow's on the string for longer, so you pick up some speed, but a little bit less forgiving. So this bow, it's rated at 330 feet per second. It feels like a 315 feet per second bow. It feels very easy to draw, very easy to shoot. So 60-pound bow, no issues at all. Okay, so how does this bow compare to the other bows in the classification as far as I'm concerned? The Bowtech, we're going to start with that, and we're going to compare it to the Amplify. The Amplify's got more adjustments, so more suitable for a beginner, someone growing into the sport. This bow's got plenty of adjustments, so 60-pound I think goes down to 40. Plenty of draw length adjustment, but this is really a step up for a person who doesn't want their 50, 60 pounds worth of adjustment. Now Bear do have a bow like that called the Cruiser that has lots of adjustment. The Cruiser is a step down from the Amplify, cheaper also. This is a step up from the Amplify. Alright, so this is basically for someone who doesn't want a beginner bow and doesn't want the $1,500 bow. That's where this bow sits in the marketplace. It's very easy to shoot, very comfortable. Bear make a very dependable bow. You're not really going to have any problems with the Bear. Saying that, I've had a person who's derailed the bow twice. I think dry fired it once. Grip is everything. Learn to shoot. If someone's there to show you how to shoot, learn. I do these videos so you don't blow up your bow. Okay, so how does it compare with the Elite Terrain? I would say the draw cycle on the Terrain's a little bit stiffer, still very easy. Oh, now this one here, this arrow, the veins come off. Now we've only just sort of fletched these up, you can see this vein's loose. Now I'm going to show you this. I've got the vein still here. Now the vein's got heaps of glue on the base of it. So, and you can see there's glue on the shaft. So there's no issue with adhesion to the shaft or to the vein. So normally it's one or the other. Sometimes it's not adhering to the vein and sometimes it's not adhering to the shaft. In this case, it's sticking quite nicely to the shaft and sticking quite nicely to the vein. So there's a couple of reasons why this could have broken. The vein might not have been pressed in correctly to the jig, so there might have been a slight space with the setting, or the glue might be no good. Or the third option, it was too quickly put down and then not taken off. So if there was too much glue, it basically wasn't dry before another vein was applied, so it never really set, so there was a space and that caused the problem. Now I would suggest it's probably not the glue because the other veins seem to be sticking pretty good, so it's a learning thing, I think. But if you're fletching arrows, look, if you haven't had veins fall off, you're lying because it's a common issue. If it's too cold, sometimes they don't sort of set. But I have lots of issues with alignment. If it's not correct and it's not sitting exactly on the shaft, that's why at home I like to have one jig set up for my arrows. So that's the way it's the same for every time I go to fletch those arrows. Or in a shop setting, you might have to adjust them for the different width shafts you're fletching, the different veins. So it's very highly likely when you go to fletch an arrow that the jig is not set correctly, and you've got to play around with it a bit to get the vein to sit correctly on the shaft. Look, I think the bow's lovely to shoot. Now, this and the terrain. I will pull up the price and the terrain in America because I think the price point's very important. Look, that's the same price in Australia. I think the terrain is probably a little bit more prestigious than the Alaskan. And when I say prestigious, it's the same cams. I think it's a little bit faster. I think the finish might be a little bit better. No real reason for me saying that. There's not a lot of difference between them. I just feel like the Elite's a little bit better. But this is a lovely bow to shoot, so I'm very comfortable shooting this bow. The PSE drive. The PSE drive is more aggressive to draw. It's got a yoke-based system to pull the cams straight. So you can say the cams are more advanced on the drive. Back in time, the drive was only a little bit more expensive than the PSE Stinger. But I feel that PSE have increased the price point of the drive, hence $750 in the US, where this one is $500 in the US, where I feel like the drive used to just be a smidge over the Stinger. I feel like it was a slightly better riser and slightly better cam system is what it's always been. But I feel like they've jumped it up in price point. Saying that, I feel the drive is a little bit more aggressive to draw. I feel like the drive's a little bit quicker. The drive's got a rubber grip, which you can take on and off. Now, if it's 50% more in America for a drive, then you've really got to say, do I want the features of a drive? As far as, the grip that comes off, the rubber grip, the faster draw cycle, because it's a bit more of a premium product. The drive's got plastic limb pockets. This is metal limb pockets. But I think it's fair to say the drive is a better product than this. It's a higher price point. It's 50% more expensive. 50%'s a lot. When I'm comparing this to the Elite, I'm like, well, I think the Elite's a little bit better. So, if it's $50 more or $100 more, I would take that. And hence why I'd have to pull up the price on the screen. But very similar product, and depends what brand you like. Depends on warranty, how you view the warranty of the different brands. Like I said, the Elite's got their Gordon Glass limbs. It depends if you think they are better limbs than the Bear limbs. And generally I'd say yes, they are a better limb because Bear feature them on their top end bows. However, I haven't had any of these limbs break, so I'm like, well, I haven't had any of the Elite limbs break either, so Now there's a fair bit of wind, and the bow's not really moving on the target. It's nice and steady. Feels good. This will be the last one. I'm happy with the noise. I think it's quiet. I got a question today in the shop about how I make my compound cheaper, how I make my compound quieter. Now it was a cheap compound. Now I don't think it had the string stop on it, and this is the thing. If you're comparing a cheap $300-400 compound to a $700 compound or a $1,200 compound, they are different. They're different in the drawers, different in quality. So you can fit string silencers and stuff to the bow. I said shoot heavier arrows if you're worried about the noise, but it's like, this is pretty good. Like, I don't think it's as noisy. Sorry, I don't think it's as noisy. I don't think there's much difference between this and the Elite Envision and Verdict I shoot as far as noise. It's a good little bow. Let's go and have a look at the group. Okay, now I can't get my fingers around the whole group. But it's not bad. It's not a terrible group. They're not clumped together. The arrows I'm not shooting knocks off. But they're not a bad group. I would say I probably shoot better with the PSE drive, and I'd have to go and compare that video. Now the reason I'd say that, and this is just talking off the top of my head, I haven't got the numbers in front of me. I would guess the brace height on the drive is slightly longer. It may be shorter, but I feel like it's slightly longer. I feel like the valley is shorter on the drive, so I feel like the draw stop when I get back there is more positive on the drive. So I feel like I would shoot slightly better with the drive than the Bear Alaskan. However, 50% difference in price, and I think I'll shoot quite well with this the majority of the time. And there's certainly some arrows there which are pretty good. And it's fairly windy today, so actually you could say that's a pretty good group based on how much wind there is, and that would be a very fair assessment. I think the grip's good. So when you're deciding between the Bear Alaskan, the drive, the terrain, and any other bow, my recommendation would be to feel the grip, to see how it feels in your hand, to see which one you like the feel of. Now I'm going to say I prefer the expensive Elites versus the cheaper Elites. So if I had the Elite Terrain at $1,000 and I had the Elite Envision at $800, I think it's worth the extra $800 to upgrade. However, if you're a beginner or a person with a $1,000 budget, that's not an option for you, because I think the Elite grip's better at the $1,000 price point. I think the adjustments are better at the $1,000. I think the bow's significantly better at $1,000. Sorry, $800 extra on the top of the range Elite. So I've really got to compare the Alaskan, the Elite, the drive. And it's very hard because the drive is 50% more expensive in the US. And I don't know whether, if I was on the $500 budget in the US and I was in the US and I didn't have the extra $250, I don't think I would want to spend the extra $250. I would probably compare it more to the PSE Stinger, which is a little bit slower, but I think through the chronograph they'd be very similar. Would be the bow I'd compare it to, not the drive because of the price point. However, in Australia, because the drive is actually cheaper, I would be thinking, well, the drive's cheaper, this is a no-brainer, the drive's a better bow. So I would say the Alaskan is a smoother draw, so maybe if you're a beginner, you would prefer the smoother draw on the Alaskan. So I recommend trying the grips on the bows and the draw cycle. The draw cycle is the easiest on the Alaskan of the three bows, in my opinion. Then it will be the Elite, then it will be the Drive. If you want a bow with more adjustment, I'd be looking at the Cruiser or the Amplifier. I think the Amplifier is a step up from the Cruiser. So I think that's a fair assessment of the Bear Alaskan. Now I would say Bear overall, very durable product, very solid. Yeah, I have very few problems with Bear. I think they're made for the meat and potato market. For a person on a budget getting into the sport, they're pretty bulletproof. They're not over-engineered, so they're not a high-performance machine that if you do the wrong thing, likely to blow up. However, I have got one there which has been dry-fired and derailed a couple of times that I need new cams for. But that has been derailed and dry-fired twice, so it needs new cams. Anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. The Bear Alaskan, I think, is a very good bow. I think the hybrid cam system's very good. I think the finish is very good. And I think Bear is a good brand to sort of get behind. Anyway, I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and enjoy your shooting. And remember, the more you shoot, the better you'll shoot. Thanks for watching.